like the Appalachian expose, I got a couple of my real good friends here. These are one of the things that I'm excited about because for me, this is one of those big storylines that I had read about in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine when I was a kid before I broke into the business. And yet, I hadn't yet gotten
oh, you're still a joker, right?
He put us over again. That's too old, folks.
Kick him under the butt.
This is when I was mesmerized. I grew up reading comic books and I went to the wrestling magazines and was reading about this wrestling in the South that I couldn't see on television here in Pittsburgh, back at home in Pittsburgh. So again, we got Brett Sawyer here, one of the legends of our business. And of course, somebody say something about fired up, Wildfire Tommy Rich. Right? One of the biggest angles that really put wrestling on the trajectory that it was going to be in. And for all you fans that grew up in Georgia and all that surrounding southern area watching Fire Tommy Rich, one of the angles that made that happen was against your brother, Brett Sawyer. I mean, one of the, now I just had to look this up because, I normally remember this stuff. I knew your brother had died a while back. 1992?
Yeah.
My God, it doesn't seem like that long.
33 years.
Wow, that's incredible. Just, first off, let's talk about your brother for a bit.
Okay.
Like, obviously, it was a big impact on you and your
Big
career
time.
and the business.
Yeah. Buzz was an amateur wrestler in high school. He could have went to the Olympics. He was pinning 12th graders when he was in 9th grade in 30 seconds.
What area of the country?
St. Petersburg, Florida.
Okay, that's Florida boys, yeah.
I mean, I was born in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and then our house burned down when I was 10. We moved to Florida. My mom owned a titty bar in Kanawha, Ohio, and we just moved to Florida.
Now, in Point Pleasant, this is the Mothman
Yeah,
place.
that's a big deal.
Yeah, did you ever see him?
When I was a kid, I saw my mom's titty bar. I seen it on top of the railroad station. Everybody died. I don't tell a lot of people that because everybody thinks you're crazy.
No, of course.
But hey, it is what it is.
But
when you're 8 years old, shit like that was scary.
Of course. But in 1961, a bridge falls at Christmas time. How many people? Like 40, 50 people?
Oh, yeah. That and also the Silver Bridge fell in 68, I think it was.
Yeah. Now, did you have any family on that bridge?
No, my dad was in the light. And
kidding.
he put up posters on the side of the road. And
wow.
It was crazy.
I guess.
Yeah.
So, like, this is the age-old question I'd asked Tony previously, asked everybody in the show. What was it about professional wrestling that first threw your brother and then you into it? And what was the conduit to do it?
Well, we used to get magazines of pro wrestling, and we'd read them, and we liked certain people.
Yeah.
Then Buzz, he met Jack and Jerry Briscoe in Florida, and then they trained me, and the rest was history pretty much. The biggest feud he ever had was with Wildfire Tommy Rich. And I mean, it was big time. I mean, they both bled like crazy.
I remember your brother, well, I obviously remember both of you guys, but the thing that always seemed odd to me about Brett was you could tell from his wrestling style, or Buzz, that I do it with my own kids, I know which one's which, but you could tell from his style, even though I'd never really talked to him, it was like I was the kid in the dressing room, he's the star, that he had a pretty extensive amateur background.
Oh,
I mean,
big
you
time.
see that in the
I
way
mean, when I was in 9th grade, I was wrestling people. I could barely pin him, but I got it done. He made it hard for me because I couldn't follow his footsteps. I can tell you that.
Well, most shooters that come into our business, I mean, there's been a few that have made, Steve Williams, obviously Kurt Angle, Brad Ranges, there's been a handful.
Steve Williams was really good.
Yeah. But most of the shooters have trouble transitioning. Did your brother have any trouble?
Not at all. He was, Buzz was Buzz. I was Tommy can tell you that.
Yeah.
He was crazy as hell.
And what year did he start? What did he meet the Briscoes? And did you guys start training at the same time?
No, I started about 2 years after he did. Him and Matt Bourne. And Steamboat helped a couple times.
Yeah.
He wasn't really there much, but Matt Bourne and Buzz was. And I walked in one day and I seen a sack in each corner, and I'm like, "What the hell's that?" My brother's like, "Brett, you're getting a little cocky. And I'm gonna make you puke in every bag," and I did.
The stories out of Florida for me as a kid coming into the business shortly after that was that how rigorous the training sessions were and how it was really regimented.
I mean, 100 drop kicks, 100 hip tosses, 100 back drops. You name it, we did it, and it wasn't a couple, it was 100, 100.
99 is not good enough.
It made me a better man, and I got a lot more humble, and that'll wake you up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
You knew how to stretch me,
oh,
that's for sure.
that
I didn't even, sorry, Tommy.
was a big portion I was getting to. Again, with that amateur background, having had an amateur background, I can tell watching that he had, but I never heard him say that.
No, he never, ever talked about it. They wanted to take him to the Olympics. He didn't want to go.
Yeah.
He wanted to do pro wrestling.
Wow.
That's what he did.
See, for you kids out there, this is the kind of hold this business had on us.
Oh yeah,
right.
big time. It was. I mean, back in me and Tommy's days, I mean, it was totally different.
Oh,
Yeah.
We were like not. You were brothers. I mean, it was a clique.
Sure.
I mean, it was sort of like a family.
Yeah. I saw
It was a brotherhood. Yeah.
Brotherhood, exactly. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
100%. Totally different than today.
Now, you said something in the car earlier on the way over from the venue tonight, that you had gone to Mid-South and there was discrepancy on pay between you and your brother.
Yeah.
And you hightailed up. There were, how many, say, 40 or 41 other territories?
40 territories.
So 40 territories. So,
Right.
They laid you out.
At least.
One of them,
If you went,
Because when Bill Watts paid Buzz $3,000 and he gave me $1,500, I said, well, it's time to leave. And Bill was like, oh no, Brett, you gotta stay for 2 weeks and do jobs. I was like, no, I don't. I'm out of here. 'Cause 40 territories. You gotta do what your Buzz always told me. Stick up for yourself.
yeah, for sure.
You gotta do.
Now, back then with the territories, I was trying to explain, because I came in right at the tail end of that. There were maybe 7 or 8 left whenever I came in. And theoretically, you could get 12, 14, 15 years experience just flipping around those before
Oh,
you
yeah.
went to one of the big
Big
feds.
time.
So by the time you were seen in an NWA then or a WWF then, you were well seasoned. I mean, you knew how to tell a story, how
Oh,
to
yeah.
do the moves, how to do it all.
I mean, they don't tell stories like we did in the day.
No.
I mean, 30, 40 years ago, I mean, it was totally different. I mean, you told a story, just like Tommy and Buzz. I mean, that sold out a bunch of places, and it was
2 years.
2 years. And Buzz was stiff as hell.
As a kid, well, I'm glad you said that.
Hey, I ain't stiff.
Again, as a kid in Pittsburgh that couldn't yet get TBS or even WOR, we would get Pittsburgh studio wrestling out of downtown Pittsburgh. That was it. We could see on television. But every month we'd be reading Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And I remember seeing vividly pictures of Harley with the suplexing and your brother and you having these matches and Valentine and Piper and all. And I'm reading about this, I'm thinking, man, this sounds incredible.
It was.
Like I never see it until about 76, 77 when the Superstation Friday night, 6:30 or 6:35 Saturday nights, and it was just like, for me, like I tell people, it's like going from mono to stereo or black and white to color.
Right.
Wrestling just took wrestling a different way to me.
No, it was big time. I mean, Tommy can tell you, we paid our dues on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, we used to load up with whatever we all wanted and just take off. And sometimes you'd be going for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
it wasn't like go work and work in a couple of days. It was every night.
Sure.
And Ted Turner was running it then.
Yeah. One of the big things questions that I've always had for the guys that come from that generation, we've seen all of us in years.
Keep saying that.
Well, you guys are the generation right before
you're
I'm
right.
coming in. But we've all seen it today for the last 30 years, how the politics has been a cancer of the business. Everybody's stabbing each other. You said a second ago, you guys were brotherhood, family. Were there politics then, or were they just more subtle about it?
Well, I'd have to say, I couldn't promise you this, but I'd say there's more settled because nowadays, boy, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
Not the same.
Well, you said something I think is important there, before we get into this incredible angle. The way you got there to Sax there, and your brother put you through the rivers, right?
Yeah,
That's what I mean. You earned your stripes.
Oh, boy,
You just did it for your brother,
I
so.
trained for 9 to 10 months straight. And then when I did break into business, it's like, oh, no, you're not wrestling yet.
Yeah.
You're going to referee for 6 months.
You go, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
they make me humble.
Of
I
course.
was like, okay, but you know what? It did help me because every baby face in Hill, when they called a high spot, some guys would go like this, some guys would talk carny, some guys would just yell at the crowd and be calling a high spot. I mean, there was all kinds of different ways, you know?
Picked all of it.
Yeah. And I bitched back then about, puking in the sacks and 100 drop kicks, 100 hip toss, but it makes you a better man and you see your career building. And I was lucky, and I mean, everywhere I went, they gave me a push, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And usually took off,
Well,
like in Portland, Oregon, Hacksaw Sawyer. That's the first territory when I did break into business. I went to Tennessee for like 2 months. Then I went to Portland, Oregon. I didn't want people to think I was hanging on my brother's coat.
Right, sure. But they made you earn your stripes the whole time.
Oh, sure they
Well,
did.
you're Brett's brother, he's the booker or whatever in the office. Just give you the easy straight right to the top of the path.
Well, yeah, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
I worked my ass off for it.
Of course,
I put a lot of time in. And me and Tommy did some tags together today. He knew his brothers, that's for sure. But I wasn't stiff.
No.
The thing in the business, and I know the answer is rhetorical, but for our fans I want to hear. Now looking back at it, and again, you've already answered this several times, but did you feel now looking back then that somebody was playing a trick on you, being mean to you?
Not really, not at all, because, in pro wrestling, it is what it is.
Right.
You go to like 40 territories compared to today, you got probably 4 territories to pay. Right? I mean, there's not 40 territories, and you can't just get up and leave like you could today. Early 80s, it was totally different than it is today. And I think it'll get better, but I could be wrong.
Well, I think also you guys sat at a really crux point in entertainment industry or history, because again, this is when cable is now exploding across the country. People are
Ted
finding
Turner was cable before cable was cool.
correct.
That's the bottom line.
For me, again, it's a kid, snot-nosed kid reading these magazines, and all of a sudden, boom, there's this
It's on TV.
Yeah, I can watch it. Holy shit, it's great. Let's get to this angle, because this is like one of the iconic angles. How long had you been in the business at the time, and how long had Brett been in the business when these two characters were put together, and what was the basis of the angle? What was the start of the angle?
Well, Ollie come to me, Buzz come in, he said, "You think you can work an angle with me?" I said, "Well, Box, he don't beat the shit out of me like he is everybody else. Yeah, I can."
Yeah.
And about 2 years later, he was still beating the shit out of me, and we were still going around the way. He just didn't beat me up as bad as he did everybody else.
And how long had Brett been in the business at this point?
Let's see what year was it?
I keep saying
Brett, you're right.
Yeah, it's
You got it right. Brett.
But Buzz, when this angle started, how long had Buzz been working?
Well, the last battle in Atlanta, I think, was in 1983 is when that was.
And I got PBS in 81.
81.
Yeah.
So he'd been.
But I was in Oregon too, because I was going, it was Buzz and Ole. I reckon Ole let him do a little booking, and Ole was always over his ass.
Yeah.
And I came in as Brett Wayne, then I went back to Portland, and then Ole wanted to turn Buzz babyface. So we came back, and we worked an angle where he came out. I was working with Jake the Snake, and I had the national heavyweight champion, and me and Jake the Snake was wrestling, and he's beating the shit out of me, and Buzz got in the ring and threw him off and covered me, and basically letting everybody know we were brothers. And then it just got bigger, and then we worked a almost 2-year deal with the Road Warriors. Boy, they broke my wrist. But they were great guys. They really was.
Yeah.
And they just big as hell. I wasn't that big. I was quick and fast.
Yeah, and they were for some of the very earliest big guys in the business.
And when Ole brought him in, he wanted me and Buzz to train with him, and we trained with them. They were great guys.
Yeah.
They're both passed now, so
Crazy.
they're all threes passed, so it's, most people call me, when they call me for interviews, well, can we talk about your brother, the Road Warriors? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, right, you're part of
Talk
that.
about whatever you want.
For me, it's like one of those things, again, now looking back and seeing like all of us in the business when it went to these explosive heights, places that nobody could ever imagine it going. And for me, I'm always a student of any what I'm teaching or
Sure.
ring. That's what interests me is how did this business get here? How is a kid like punk like me able to walk out there and 20,000 people in the building because of the stuff that you guys have done?
Yeah, I mean, Ode Anderson had a lot to do with it too. I mean, he's the one that ran
Sure.
it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he was hard to get along with, but he was all about business.
Yes.
Yeah. I say it, he was a prick, but he knew. Yeah, he was a very good businessman. Gave me a good push, gave Tommy, he pushed him out the window.
Yeah.
I mean, he was on fire big time.
So we had talked to Tom before about his explosive growth, into the business. But now we have this heel, Buzz, that's been roughshod and
Big time.
and being this character that he was. And all of a sudden, here comes this white meat babyface that can fire up, right? The quintessential.
Tommy was over like $1 million.
Yes. And like out of the gate, right? It's
Oh yeah,
boom.
big time. Women were over him like crazy.
Yeah. Well, why though?
I'm sure his wife didn't like that.
In our business, right, you always had the guys that, there was, bigger, badder, biker-looking guy like from the bar or whatever. And all of a sudden, a guy like this comes in.
Kicking ass and
Yeah,
taking it.
yeah.
It's all about how you work with people.
Well, now, it wasn't kicking ass and taking names. My first night, Jerry got me booked in Atlanta. My first night was at the Atlanta City Auditorium. My pick was Abdul the Butcher. No, I didn't pick him. He picked me. I don't know. Only said he'd beat you in 30 seconds, bust your head open, and Tony Atlas is gonna say.
Yeah.
Jerry already told me. He said, "Get down there and don't like it. Call me back," because he didn't want me to leave.
Right.
But he wanted me to go and see what the other side was like.
Right.
Boy, I thought at that point in time, I thought, maybe I better call Jerry. yeah. But anyway, I stuck it out, and of course, down the road, had Dooley give it back. He was supposed to wrestle Wahoo Tommy one night.
Yeah.
And it's Thanksgiving night, and that thing was sold slap out, and Wahoo and Ole got a fuzz to it. The two attitudes meet, that's what happened. Anyway, Wahoo didn't show up. They said, asked Abby who wanted to work. He said, give me the kid. They said, kid. That's where Buzz me started. But anyway, we're out there, and he said, follow me out. You're supposed to get over that rail. I get over that daggone rail, follow him up. And it's parked like the Red Sea people because they scared Abdul. Anyway, I was about maybe 210. Abdul was 400 plus. I got him back in the ring, I was hitting him, boom, boom, boom. He said, slam me again. Boom, boom, boom. I said, slam me again. Boom, boom. I said, I can't slam you, Abby. He said, God dang it. I said, slam me again. I thought, boy, this is one of them jokes where the heel sets down and you go, Anyway, I picked him up and slammed him. He went up lighter than I did, and I slammed that building, went boom, like that. And we got to the back. He told me, he said, remember I told you I'd give it back. And I never forgot about that, but he sure did.
Sure.
That was a start right there.
Yeah.
Of course, me and Tony tagged up for a salt and pepper tag team to win the Georgia titles. And then after that, I was on the road, and then that's when Buzz come in, and I said, thank you. Didn't nobody else want to work with him.
Yeah. That's a fact.
Yeah.
They come to me, your brother, man, fuck that, I'm not here. I was like, hey, listen.
He just worked hard.
Yeah,
he worked hard.
And when his adrenaline got rushed, that was sort of a
He was
problem.
intense.
Yeah, very intense person.
Yes. So what was the genesis of it? Was this something that happened in a house show that somebody saw, that Ole or whoever saw something? Was it something on TV that somebody said? I'm always into this because having very recently just found out the Four Horsemen. I'd always thought that was something that Dusty or Flair came up with. And it was a line that AA threw into a promo at one point, and it became the most iconic thing. So what was the genesis of you and Buzz? I mean, how did this angle start?
Just always sitting back and watching.
Yeah.
Always sitting. That's like Ole had a great mouth, so he's seen money.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Seen money. That was the whole thing.
Unbelievable heel, and a babyface can sell his ass up and fire and make that comeback. Yeah. So here's the ingredients, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Nobody else want to work with.
Because I tell you,
He wore headgear. I'm the one that need the head.
when somebody was working with Buzz, you could tell because they was outside Besides Tommy, he didn't pay. He just told Buzz, "You work for me, I ain't fucking doing
Yeah,
it."
yeah.
Buzz would be, the guys working with Buzz, I seen him walking, I'd be like, "You must be working with Bruce." Who's Bruce? Buzz. Oh, yeah. Shit, it's so funny.
So how let us out really. What was the first?
Well, that's when
the stages of
first it was Georgia Championship Wrestling. That's where about the time that we was doing our deal.
Yeah.
Is when we expanded to the, Ohio, West Virginia,
Yeah.
and all the area,
Tour.
going on the tours and stuff like Brett was saying.
And you guys were red hot at that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was, we was smoking hot.
Yeah.
It got to where we'd come, like, usually we'd go up to the north, come up here for a week,
Yeah.
come home, do TV, and then be home in Georgia. And finally got to the point that we'd fly home. My wife would meet me at the airport, give me a change of clothes. I'd go I'd fly in, we'd do TV, come back, she'd move me at the airport,
Yeah.
a new bag, and we'd fly back up.
Yeah, wow.
We was on the road,
Big time.
and you had to have a brotherhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't be around folks like that.
Right.
When you talk about cliques, there may have been cliques, but it was more of a brotherhood. You had
Exactly.
like a group that would travel together. You
Sure.
had to,
Helping each other.
Yeah, but it was all, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it was all about the buck. We knew if we didn't put asses in the seat,
We were
nobody,
screwed.
we didn't get paid.
Yeah.
We got paid for putting asses in the seat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So in your case, another attribute as a face was you cut that promo. The promo that wasn't playing tough guy or whatever, you're playing sincere baby face, but with that edge. That was brand new in wrestling.
Yeah,
right?
sure
And
was.
Buzz, of course, cut a hell of a fucking
Oh, yeah.
right? So, night one of this angle, describe it to me. What was, how was it laid out? How was it laid out to you guys?
Well, it was called, what was that called? You guys were in the caves.
That's the last battle of Atlanta.
That was the big one. I thought the last
Yeah, that
battle
was
of
it.
Atlanta.
Yeah,
That was the last of Tommy and Buzz. I think they did a 2-year deal.
Yeah, we run around
Yeah.
the loop between Atlanta and
Big
Georgia.
time.
It was,
And boy,
the angle would last, 12, 16 weeks, a good angle,
yeah, big time.
For 2 years.
That went on for a lot
yeah.
longer than that, that's for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, it was hot, man. And we was making money, everybody was happy. We was just doing little too much traveling, but hey, when a promoter's willing to fly you in and not drive you in, that makes everything a little bit
Sure,
easier. You
yeah.
get a little more sleep.
Yeah.
It's better than driving 15 hours or something.
Yeah.
But we did a lot of driving. I wrecked a few cars, but hey, we all had a few.
No,
Well, but the key is too, I think, for it to run 2 years, was there was obviously asses in the seats.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
man,
yeah.
it was
You guys
bad.
were making money.
Yeah.
So you didn't mind being on the road.
No,
schlepping.
hell no. We love
That
it.
paycheck and
Yeah.
stuff, right? Yeah.
but you gotta be with a good group of guys.
Yeah.
No matter how much
Oh,
money
yeah.
you make,
Yeah.
With the wrong group, you went to
Yeah,
Prima
yeah,
Donna or
yeah.
somebody that's arrogant as
Yeah.
hell. There's a lot of them.
Sure.
But you just don't say nothing. I'm the type of person nowadays. I don't say a whole lot.
Yeah, just go with the flow.
Yeah, you got to. Because if you don't move on,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? You got to get along with everybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
And see, that for me was the thing that I had come into the business with Dominic Tanucci, and Bruno would stop by quite often, and I would hear them telling stories between themselves about this brotherhood. On the road, everyone's looking out for each other.
oh yeah.
So I came into the business expecting that, and unfortunately, I'd gotten into business right after all that politics shit started. So I'd come in here, somebody said, "Hey, everybody," and get the knife in the back, right?
Yeah,
And
oh, yeah.
on the next one, and it just really toughens your skin up. You got to
Sure does.
become a prick, right?
Yeah.
Like, fuck you.
That too.
Yeah.
Because they walk on you. You know, somebody like Buzz always told me, if you let a promoter push you around and tell you what to do, you got problems.
Right.
I mean, by then, you had many years in the business.
Yeah.
I mean, like Tommy said, we were making money. That's what we was doing pro wrestling for.
And what you were doing, that's the whole purpose.
That
right?
is the whole
But we
purpose.
was having a good time.
And we did have a great
I
time.
mean, we had a great time too.
I mean, shit, we would go out and that's why I ain't had a drink in 37 years, but I can tell you, I did a lot of drinking then.
Did it at the cover of those
Yeah.
So, at the outset of this, was this first a build up on TV? Was it?
Oh yeah, it was hot. Him and Buzz were hot as hell,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I mean,
I can't remember what the actual angle where it started, but me and Buzz in Chattanooga we did a deal where we fought through the concession stand,
Yeah,
and they come film that. I mean, we just.
They
did
went into the
different stuff.
crowds and
Yeah,
all
I mean,
that.
Didn't happen back then.
No, hell no. Boy, they would go up there. It was, I mean, they had a hell of an angle,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah. Because,
I mean, fans, this is 30-some years later, and
Right.
the fans still talk
Sure,
about it.
sure.
I mean, that tells you a lot.
well, when you look and see, and I always get perplexed by this because obviously for a 2-year run, it can't just be you two are gonna fight and then 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it is, we put you over, and then and we hear today like all the time, well, we have another pay-per-view in 3 weeks. Okay, so dump more gasoline on it. Keep dumping the gasoline, right?
Yeah.
What in the stars is written that, okay, well, we have a pay-per-view next, so we're gonna finish this, and you're gonna wrestle him, and you're gonna wrestle them, and it just seems like the business is like taking this right turn off of the formula that worked forever,
Ever.
for decades.
Yeah.
And ours was pay-per-view every night.
Yeah.
Ours,
Yeah.
you know, we went to them towns weekend, I mean, you know, like when we started in Georgia, it'd be Monday night was Augusta, Georgia.
Yeah.
Tuesday night, Macon, Georgia. Wednesday night was Columbus, Georgia. On Thursday, you do Rome or Athens because they wasn't big enough to go weekly.
Yeah.
Friday was Atlanta City Auditorium. At the end of the month, you do the Omni. Saturday, we do Atlanta TV. You drive, you had to haul ass to get to Columbus to do a live TV, and then you go somewhere and wrestle that night.
Wow.
So we were wrestling 9 times a week,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I mean, but and as far as just
Double shots on the
the
weekend.
combination of Buzz Sawyer and Tommy Rich, though,
It's hot.
it was just that combination.
Yeah.
People would come in and wasn't angry, they was coming.
Yep.
You know,
And
they
they
was
didn't
coming
stop.
because they knew they were gonna see a show.
Good
They
entertainment.
knew I was gonna fight for my life
Yeah.
one night.
That's a fact. I can say that.
Yeah, now, during this 2-year run of this angle, were there mileposts along the way where maybe Columbus dropped 100 people, 50 people, whatever, and Ole or whoever said, hey, we're gonna stir this up a little more, pour a little more gasoline on it, and if so, what were the ups and downs of that angle? Or was it?
I think it was more us.
Pretty much, I mean, we did the last battle at Atlanta, you know, I mean.
And that was,
You know, they was hanging on the rafters then, and that's, you know, like
and
I
that was,
said.
they both would left that angle, both of them, the pictures, they're both leaving there bleeding their ass off.
Sure.
I mean, it was hot. I mean, there's no doubt.
I mean, that's where the Hell in a Cell come from.
Uh-huh.
Well, again, I remember in reading the magazines, it's still pictures, mostly black and white, but you could see the ferocity of the audience. You know, how wild. Just even if it's a still picture, you could see that this wasn't just a crowd.
Oh, yeah.
This is a crowd like.
These fans-
And they was there week in and week out. It ain't like every 3 months you come
Right.
to a big show.
We're talking
We was there
all the time.
week in, week out. I mean,
All-
52
all year
weeks
long.
a year, you
Yeah.
know, 52 weeks a year. We didn't have no, then they found out you could run on Sundays and they did that
They
twice.
did
you know.
that. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It was hard, but it was great. You know, I look at it now and it was great. Because now it was 40 territories. Now you're at 4 territories.
And if
It's
you didn't
big.
make the break, if you didn't get a break, say in Atlanta, you go to Florida for Eddie Brown and you get a little bit better. Then you might go to Watts, and that's where you get your big push in. You know, you get the opportunity to try. Whereas
Oh, yeah.
today,
It don't work
either
like
you make it or you don't, or you kiss the right ass and
Yeah.
you get it, or you
Yeah.
don't. You know, I mean, it's you know, I mean, back then there was more opportunities. I think.
Oh, big time.
And we had lived. Today it's choreographed.
Sure, sure.
You know, it's night and day difference from what we did.
Oh.
I couldn't do what they
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
I couldn't
You know,
do
I was sitting back here going over, you know, in our match, you'd have a little opening or something, a heat spot and finish. The rest you played back here, you
Yeah,
know.
we didn't call nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
we did it in the ring.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, when I came into business, the dressing rooms were still separated, still kayfabe. The hotels were kayfabe. There was a flight for heels, a flight for babies, and you had no reason.
Oh, yeah, back
to
then,
go on.
in the early 80s, if you didn't kayfabe, you got fired.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I tell you, I watch shows now, like they do up in, I did a couple months ago, and they let the crowd in, and these guys, baby faces in heels, new kids, I don't know, I didn't know but a couple of them, they're going over the match in front of the fans. I mean, it was fucking ridiculous.
It's sports entertainment.
Yeah, it's
It was crazy.
so with Buzz, like again, we joked with Ribbon on Square earlier about how intense he was.
Very.
Now, was he involved in the office at this point? Or was Ole still running?
Ole was running it basically.
Okay.
I mean, Buzz did a little booking for
Yeah.
him, but Ole, he was the main guy.
You know, again, I had very, very few interactions with Buzz because again, I was down here, he was up here, you know, on the card by then. But again, with that intensity, and because I knew and heard stories over the years of how intense he was.
Man, you got to watch him do an amateur run. They wanted to take him to the Olympics, but he didn't want. He wanted to do pro wrestling.
But I'm sure a guy like that had a great mind for the business. In those drives every night, in those flights when his wheels are going.
Oh,
How can I dump that gasoline on there, right? How can I keep getting this kid over, keep getting my heat on the kid? Because sooner or later, it's like either this one's up or this one's up ultimately. But during that, you got to keep it churning and keep it going. And
that's everything.
Yeah.
You got to have people that work together. If you can't work with somebody that don't want to sell or don't want to make a comeback, you got problems.
Yes. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, that's work. That's work then. So, like, when you were sitting down, again, because I never had the pleasure of working with Buzz on that kind of level. Once or twice I was in the ring with him. I think one was a tag match and it was a singles match, but they were just squashes.
Yeah.
Sort of boom, didn't even talk before the match. When you guys were in a building, you're in, say, Atlanta, Georgia, you had your big match tonight. When you're sitting down and talking with Buzz, like, was there much interaction? Was there ideas of throwing out like how to keep the psychology of the story going?
We go out there and work hard, man. That's all we do.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't choreograph nothing. Right?
No.
It was all done in the ring. Like when you call a high spot, some guys would just yell out Carney. Some guys just covered, you know, like this. I mean, like when I did refereeing when I first started, I learned a lot from all the baby faces, how they call the matches, how all the heels would call the matches, and it's pretty. It helped me tremendously.
Of course.
You know, I mean, they wasn't a whole lot of guys 18 years old doing pro wrestling.
But and for me, I think the thing was getting into it at that point, and you know, being slid up the card just a hair. You know, and you're in the ring with Bobby Eaton calling 30 move spots, and just by the way his body movement, and he just take you by the nose and pull you on through it. Your matches with Brett were a lot more fight for your life, is how it looked, right? I mean,
I was.
He definitely was.
But that's what made it so.
It is. I mean,
that's what made it. I mean, you know.
Tommy's comebacks, no babyface work like Tommy did. I mean, his comebacks was phenomenal. I mean, people, it's not done like that, and nothing was choreographed. It was all just done at the moment. You know.
And in doing that way, the whole match that was laid out prior, whatever it was you guys did, everybody in that building knew if Tommy can get around that corner, man, wow,
he's gonna kick ass.
Yes.
And that's what you gotta build up to. If not, you're letting your fans get, you're pissing them off. That's the last thing you want to do. And Tommy goes over like $1 million. Buzz had heat like $1 million. So it was both of them.
Well, I come from a very blue collar family. I think most of us do, right? Many of us come from, you know, from the Hollywood Hills. But you know, for like just looking at my own family, you know, my mom made a couple bucks an hour working her ass off in the mill, feeding 6 kids, with a roof over our head. You know, to take us to a wrestling match, to take us to see anything like that, to the movies, whatever, that was a big chunk of money out of the family budget. And I always looked at it from the standpoint of, you know, you hear the guys go, hey, it goes only half full, let's take it easy tonight. My thinking was, it might be a quarter full if we do that. Let's go out and share this fucker.
And you're right. I agree with you 100%.
Because we all, it doesn't matter if one person shows up. That person didn't pay
Wants to
any
get
more or
entertained,
less.
wants to see it.
They want to take
And that's a thing.
Absolutely. And we owe it to them.
Yeah, sure do.
That to me, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
That to me is what was like one of the hallmarks that, you know, obviously the magazines didn't say, hey, these guys wrestle their asses off or anything like that.
No,
and reading the matches and looking at the pictures, you could see that by that time in the post-Bruno era in the WWF, which is what we got up then, there were a lot of those guys that were doing a lot of the more sports entertainment type of stuff that would come later. But I'm still reading these magazines now. I can see it on TV, and I'm watching wrestling that, to me, it's like the old Bill Watts thing. If it were real, what would you do? If somebody walked through the bar to smack you, if it were real in a wrestling match, what would you do? And for me, having an amateur background, nowhere near as extensive as your brother's, but having that kind of background and watching NWA wrestling and Georgia Championship Wrestling, that to me looked what amateur wrestling would look like if it went to the pro level, if you pushed it up over that.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like, it's pulled me right in, because suddenly I'm watching what looks to be like possibly shoot wrestling as a kid that did that.
Right. Well, most people didn't know.
And that was the mistake to our business.
Big time. Big time.
That's why you get fired if you didn't kayfabe.
Yeah.
It was a mistake. It's like you go to a magic show and you'll watch it trick 100 times.
Yeah.
But once you know how it's done, then you don't care as much about it.
True.
And we sold the kayfabe. I mean,
big time.
The heels didn't come out and sign autographs. That was our job. That was the babyface job.
Babyface's own.
The heel and the heel wouldn't shake hands.
Yep.
And they didn't go out.
World.
Yeah, big difference. These guys don't know how to kayfabe. I'll tell you that.
Well, they don't care to.
No, they don't.
Sports entertainment.
Yeah. Well, like I told you before, I've heard people say, well, the fans today know it's work, so it doesn't have to make sense. And I said to the kid, if that's your belief, you've already beat yourself before you go off the curtain. Right?
Exactly.
It's you can look at any iconic match. There's a bazillion of them in our business that we, of course, are fans of and students of. When you go back and you watch them, I saw somebody post one time there was a match with Bruno on TV or online, and one kid said, "I watched it. I don't know." He didn't impress me. And I'm like, "No, watch the build up of that. Him and Zbyszko, the build up. That was what was masterful about it, right? Was the build up and how they kept teasing it. You get sucked in and they tease and go back and be seen.
Larry Zbyszko,
yes.
I worked with him and he dropped the national title for me.
Yeah, good hand.
Oh, great guy.
Yeah,
I
good.
never had a problem with him.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, I won't put words in your mouths, but I think I know about to come in when I did. Those guys, the Wahoos and those tough old guys that were the generation before your generation. If you went out there as a heel, if Buzz would have gone out there and signed autographs or made a bit of picture money on the side or whatever, he'd have called money hell, right? Because those guys are thinking, this is our industry, it's how we feed our family, and you're out there prostituting. Not that Buzz has never done that.
No, yeah.
Right? The old timers were hate mongers.
Oh yeah, Buzz was hardcore.
Sure.
It takes two to really it takes three, because the referee's got to be halfway smart.
And back during our time, we big dumbheads, we didn't know nothing about sign. All we did was sign free autographs.
Yeah.
We didn't go out there and charge $20, $30 for a picture. We didn't do that.
No, we gave it away.
Yeah, you'd sign and just give them away. That's right, or a piece of paper with a program, mostly program. I ain't gonna tell you how many programs.
Yeah. Big difference.
So it's,
and that's right, we'll go back to the same thing. 40 territories. That's a lot of territories.
Yeah.
I look at it nowadays and go, wow. Because, I don't know,
Where do you perfect your craft? How do you perfect your craft? If suddenly you're on national TV, boom, here's the camera, you're on national TV.
That makes it even harder when you're on TV because there's no changing.
Right.
If you mess up, you got problems.
Hey, stop fucking swearing on my show. What's going on?
Oh, shit. But it was good times. It was brotherhood. We were a lot closer than these guys are nowadays. I mean, we took up for each other.
Well, and it was because it was all about putting ass. It wasn't how pretty you look or who was on the main event.
Sure.
Because he might be the main event one week.
Yeah.
And I might be the main event the next week. As long as the asses was in the seat, we didn't care who was the main event.
We was getting paid.
Because we got paid.
The one thing that might be, I keep saying the one thing, I read a million things away from Buzz, but again, the intensity of a road, like everything, is that his intensity would come to the room before he would.
Oh yeah, Buzz was always intense.
Yeah, but you could, not just Buzz, but all those guys in that generation, you could tell that they all loved professional
They
wrestling.
did, yeah.
They
sure did.
it. They put their bodies on the line for
and
it.
they bumped their asses off. They
Yeah.
did interviews. They traveled. They flew. I mean, we did everything we could do
Sure.
to put asses in the seat.
Of course.
We didn't. We helped each other back then.
Yeah.
You know, like a thing I got a problem with now. I was talking to commentator, what was it? Gordon Solie. They don't want to put him in the Hall of Fame. I don't get that. Why the F would you put Gordon? He helped every wrestler that came in the studio. I think.
Yes.
Don't you?
Yes, sir.
I mean,
is Gordon still alive?
no, he died in 2000.
I was gonna say,
But I talked to his son the other day, and I told him, I said, I got a couple shoot interviews I'm getting ready to do on 27th, and I'll plug him because that's bullshit.
Right.
And Brian Blair, back in the day, I thought Blair was okay, but he's the one that don't want to let him in the Hall of Fame. He's the president.
Yeah. It's so perverted to me because, like, any of us that have run the roads and saw the things that the Gordon Solies and Lance Russells and these guys would do to help get us over.
Exactly.
You know, for me, I didn't know shit about shit.
And when you make an interview up, Gordon Solie was there to, like, he's commentating your match, and he would go off this, he would cover your ass.
Yes. Yeah.
And, you know, I don't blame his son for being pissed off.
Of course.
I mean, it might be out of his and Brian Blair's hands. It could be out. Or there's heat there. Something. I mean, I was shocked when I heard that.
Because he's one of the giants, right?
He is.
It's not like
Him
guys
and Ross, Jim Ross.
Sure.
I mean, he was number one in my book, but
Gordon was number one. I mean, Gordon could make you or break you.
Yeah.
You know, a commentator had the job.
And he did one hell of a job.
Oh,
He
yes,
helped
he did.
everybody.
Yeah. Well, when you stop and you think that, when you're at any of these conventions, you ask any wrestling fan, as soon as you say Saturday night 6:35 at the TBS, right? Every wrestling fan grew up watching it.
Yeah.
He's a integral part of Americana.
And that helped selling places out.
Oh, yeah.
Believe me, because if you don't got TV, you gotta have TV.
Yeah.
Because if you really want to promote like they did with us,
Yeah.
you got to put money into it. You
Sure.
got to have a TV show.
Of course.
At least once a week,
Yeah.
if not every 2 weeks, but once a week, like Ted Turner.
Yeah.
Hell, it was every night, wasn't it? Just sometimes. I mean,
We did the TV, Saturday morning, that was every Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, I got up
And then every
early
now and
too.
then they'd come and feel, oh Lord,
Yeah.
stay away till the
The Saturday night
Let's
6
do it.
Did they, were they live from the beginning?
No, they filmed it that morning, short that.
So that afternoon, because by the time I'd go out there, it was live, and so you were told like, fuck a spot up, fuck, miss
Yeah, that's when
standing
they
word,
want
whatever.
stage.
Yeah, just gonna keep going, it's,
Yeah.
ain't no retakes here.
Now that I look back and see how the career, you really don't think about it when you do it.
Sure.
Like, I go on Google and pull up Brett Sawyer videos and shows me and Andre the Giant tagging in Oregon and wrestling Ric Flair 60, 70 times. I mean, it's a big difference, but I mean, that's with 40 territories. I mean, you never had a problem getting a job, that's for damn sure, because.
Especially if you were a decent hand.
Yeah, if you knew how to work, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how they do it nowadays because, like I was telling you, the show I was at a couple months ago, here's baby faces and heels in there going over the bullshit and letting the fans see it. I found that hard.
Saving my brain explodes. But I always give the kids a pass, and I'll tell you.
And I told Bobby Fulton, I said, what is that bullshit? Oh, Brett, this is 2023. And I'm like, that's why there ain't no fucking body in here.
Yeah. It's like, to me, again, there's this age-old argument, and now there's been enough years they're done like this, right? Where they say, well, the fans have always known, since Vince Stoops or whoever, at the time they started exposing the business. And it would go still to stratospheric heights after that, but then we hit this peak and come down, and the numbers are astronomical when you look at it. When WWF, WCW, and ECW were competing, there was an average weekly in America, forget Canada, Mexico, Europe, the rest of the planet, there were 48 to 52 million fans watching wrestling every week.
I believe it.
And that was built on
Yeah.
matches like you and Buzz and.
Hey, I mean, people
Reagan.
loved the main. When those guys came out, it was totally. I mean, when you're in the Omni and Tommy and Buzz had that place packed. I mean, that's a high you can't buy. I mean,
I'm drunk.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
But see, I think the kids today, like, unlike my generation coming in and watching, this kayfabe being done, the protection of the business, and laying of the storylines out, and how each of the guys worked hard to get each other over. That was dripping on me every night.
That's
I'm sitting
good.
there, it's just, it's front row seat, watching this. But I had grown up watching wrestling, reading it in the magazines, and now I'm in the business and sucking it up from all these legends, true Hall of Famers all coming, down the road. These kids today have never been in the ring with you or your brother. A guy that's been in the business for, like I said, 34 years.
Right.
And so I really believe that they think, well, yeah, the world has turned and the business is different when you guys were in it as compared to now.
Big time.
And the thing that I always ask myself, or these kids, when I get the chance to talk to them, is I was more athletic than Bruno, but these kids are like exponentially more athletic than any of us were. The problem is, did you ever go to the range and do every move you could and then start over and do it again?
That's why me and Buzz lasted 2 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes less is more, you go out there and fight your ass off.
Yeah.
And we do it, like I said, we was in big towns every week. So we would bust it up and change it up, but still, it just, because the people believed in good and evil. That's what our business.
Sure.
You watch a movie, it's good versus
evil.
evil. Now then, it's just who can fly. I mean, used to you did a pile driver and you was at the hospital.
Right.
Now then, they'll give them
20
food,
pound drive.
and then the other guy get up and give them. It's a different world.
Yeah.
It's a different world, and you can't blame the guys because that's what they're brought up in. That's
why
it's the new age. I mean, we're old school and they new age.
Yeah.
And hats off to them. I couldn't do what they did, but they couldn't do what I did.
Exactly.
Go on the road 7 days a week.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks.
52 weeks.
Yeah.
You'd be lucky to get 3 or 4 days in between that off.
So fair, and if you did, you enjoyed it. You stayed home with your wife.
If you got hurt, what'd you do?
Worked.
You still work.
I worked.
You
hell
get
yeah.
paid
Work no
2
pay.
weeks, you didn't get paid.
So, again, I know the answer, but I want to ask it anyways for our fans here
Sure.
to catch it. So, as you're going through this fighting for your life with Buzz, right? And the stiff, solid, amateur, strong style, whatever they would call it today.
Oh yeah, he was.
For 2 years, was there ever a time you went to say, take it a little bit easy?
Not really, you couldn't take it easy.
Right?
He's right. I agree with you.
You could, but you didn't take it because you loved what you was doing.
Of course, yeah.
You love what you do, like you was talking about. Don't matter if they 1 or 5,000 or 20,000.
Yeah.
They bought the ticket to see you.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter, but of course we never had that problem.
Sure.
No.
Because it was always, if it got, like you was talking about, if it was 100 people short, everybody was scratching their head, how do we get them back,
Yeah.
So
And angles back then didn't last that long. I mean, a good angle went 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years.
Sure.
Well, we did it with Road Warriors, but that's about. I mean, there wasn't a lot
Few and
of
far between.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big time.
The 64, used to be 64,000. I think now it's a $64 trillion question, right? The way the country spends money.
Yeah.
Looking back at it now, where we sit today, did it seem hard to you? Like looking back now, did it ever seem hard? Not that it wasn't physically exerting and stuff, but did you ever get the feeling like, man, I'm really trudging on the road here, and this is really tough?
Oh, sure, I did.
Yeah. It's
shit, I don't know that I did. I had fun, got paid. I mean, I loved a lot.
Yeah.
And you had, there you go. You had to love it in order to do what we did. I mean, the money was good.
Yeah.
Money was good. I mean, that's the only reason. I mean, we wasn't making no money. We probably wouldn't have done it. But you still had to love it. To be on the road 6 days a week and wrestle 7, 8, 9 times in a week. You had to love what you do.
And that takes a wear on you when you're flying everywhere, you're driving, when you get there, and then you get it back, you gotta drive a couple 100 miles, jump on a plane, or just vice versa, and then drive. I mean, if it was over 300 miles, they flew us, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's, again, not the, how do I word this? we've all had bad experiences in the business, especially later when we get to work with the Vince McMahons and those people. But when you think back of your career now, do those negatives ever come up, or is it always your friends, the camaraderie,
To tell you no, I'd be a liar. Yeah, so a few of them came up, but you know, like Tommy said, if you love the business, I mean, you did what you had to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you just had to rough it and suck it up.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned that real quick.
Sure.
When I walked in and took all those backdrops and hip tosses and shit, and puking in every fucking corner, I thought, yeah, you're full of shit, Buzz. I was full of shit because, boy, I was puking my brains out.
Yeah.
He was over there laughing his ass off. But it made me a better man. That's for sure.
You know, I told you guys earlier, growing up in a blue collar family, and it struck me fairly early in my career, still young and dumb and green as goose as I was, that I'm going out here to the ring and somebody's telling me what to do. I'm basically playing Simon Says. And for a 20-year-old kid, I'm making pretty darn good money. I'm on television. None of my friends are on television.
Right.
You know, I'm thinking, this is like, when I was a kid sitting at home watching wrestling, if you'd have said that at some point you're gonna be on that TV inside that ring, I'd be like, you're fucking high, right? How do you get into that TV? Like, where's that happen, right? And it's the question I always ask fans at the conventions and things, because these people that come and spend a lot of money to get our autograph.
Oh, yeah.
And I asked them, like, if you love the business this much, why didn't you try to get into the business? And a lot of them, they didn't know how, didn't have a connection or whatever. But I mean, today there's wrestling schools everywhere, so it's that question I always ask is like
wrestling schools.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Right. Yeah.
That's the problem.
And I mean, like he's right. I mean, in West Virginia, I was shocked to see everybody that had a wrestling ring.
Sure.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's every little state you go to or town in here, they got a fucking wrestling school. I mean, and the guy never even. I mean, how do you teach wrestling when you never wrestle? But they do it.
Yeah.
They do it.
It's called like us three decide to put our money together.
Yeah.
Whether you got some boots or not, you can rent a building if you find the ring. You know.
Well,
Wow.
I disagreed. I'll tell you why. Because like for me meeting Dominic, that was a
That saved your life.
Oh,
Sure.
it gave me a career it would have never even thought of. We had built a backyard ring only because in Pro Wrestling Illustrated, my buddies and I, a kid got his picture in there because he built this ring with vines and carpet. We were all pretty handy, so we went to the junkyard and sold a bunch of shit, made a pretty decent little backyard ring, and rolled around for a few weeks. And now what are we going to do with it? And back then, they'd have the Labor Day telethon, Jerry Lewis, and he said, a backyard carnival, make $5-10 and send it in. It's a backyard wrestling show. This is 1978, right? So we write down the characters, like what each one of us wants to be, like literally wrote like a script out of our matches and practice them. But we had to get permission from the local NBA office. Now this woman, I've said her name for the fans that have watched the show a million times, but I'd like to make sure I mention it. You'll understand why in a second. So we go to meet this. I'm the oldest. I was 13. My friends were 12. And so we're smart. Our moms had to drive us over there. And we walk in, and this woman, her name was Angeline Paparella. She was probably in her late 50s, early 60s, had been a nurse that contracted adult onset muscular dystrophy. So she's in and I'm not doing this to make fun, I'm trying to describe. She's immobile in a wheelchair, like leaning her head's back on the pillow, and she moved a few fingers. And to watch, even as a kid that did not fart at that time, to watch how that woman, able to move a few fingers, devoted her life to courageously battle this disease that would ultimately kill her, right?
Yeah.
Even if I'm getting goosebumps. As a kid, it was awe-inspiring. As young and dumb as I was, I'm like, my God. Like, I bet you while taking the garbage out, this poor woman's can move 2 fingers and she's fighting like that. Well, she called me up one day because I was the leader, because I was the oldest. And she said, there's an Italian guy wrestling with his local. I said, Bruno Sammartino. I said, no, it's not Bruno. She said, his name's something weird, like Dominini. I said, Dominic Danucci? She was, yeah, he lives 6 miles from me. I have no fucking idea. Never. Yeah. So she connected us, and I went out and met his wife, Janine, and she said, Dominic's not sure if he's going to be in town that day, but if he is, he might stop by. So we were afraid to advertise him because that didn't really sound too sure.
Right, might stop.
Yeah, no, we looked like real heels if it didn't. Well, during the first match, this big LTD pulls up, and I remember watching He had shorts, summer day, shorts and a t-shirt on, and just this barrel got out of the car. Just a barrel with arms and legs and calves that had softballs on the side. He looked like a giant to us. And that really was the blessing that changed my life. Because he and I became friends. I had a great dad. I didn't need a second dad. But Dominic became like a second dad to me.
That's good.
And I always wonder, I had that avenue. Every one of us has a different avenue in this business. But for all those thousands and thousands of fans that come and spend big money to get in the door, then they get each picture and autograph. They obviously know the business as much as we did, so I'm sure in a lot of cases it was they had no idea how to go about it, but I'm sure a lot of them did have a wrestling school near them or whatever. So what's that factor in those of us stupid enough or crazy enough or insane enough to try to get into this business as compared to all those fans that would give the right nut to be in the places that we
Sure.
have you guys ever thought of that? Like, what is the delineating factor? How do we end up on this side of the fence and all those thousands not?
Back when I started, it was more of a shoot business.
Yeah,
So there was a lot of people that wanted to sit outside and look,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, they got into it, and Bill Apter, Bill Apter, we talked about Gordon Sullivan, the greatest of all time, probably, to me anyway. And then you got
Me
Bill
too.
Apter, you talking about
He's
reading
just as great.
magazine. Yeah, Bill.
Great guy.
I was
Yeah,
on
yeah.
more covers. I was on more covers of his magazine
Me too.
than anybody.
That's a terrible Jerry Lewis, but he's.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's funny as
Yeah.
hell.
I mean, and see, like for you fans out there, that's the whole point of this business is that it wasn't just Brett, it wasn't just Ole, it wasn't just Dusty or Hogan or Flair or Bruno.
Exactly. There's many more people.
And we're just part of the cast.
Yeah.
We just got lucky enough to be part of the cast.
Right.
The guy, like Klondike, that would cart that ring around all the different places, set it up, and tear it down and get to the next place. The people in the office. I mean, there are literally thousands of people, or at least hundreds per promotion,
Oh, yeah.
working behind the scenes just to get three ugly guys like us
Yeah.
from A to B to C.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot that goes to it. And
That's for sure.
I've just always considered it like a real blessing.
It is a
to
blessing.
been in this business.
I mean, because if they don't want you in this business,
Yeah.
you're not getting
Yeah,
it. I can tell you. I mean, in the early 79, 80,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, kayfabe was everything.
Sure.
I mean, that's the first thing they taught you.
Yeah. And if you didn't show respect for the business,
Yeah, you had problems.
Yeah.
I can tell you that because these guys are making a living off
Yeah.
that shit.
and they were all tough as nails and knew the crowd.
Oh my God.
I always tell people, if I'd have done some of that stuff, this would have been like up here, and there would have been damn thing I could have done about it, right? It would have just been, well, thanks for putting my head up my ass. So,
I got to wrestle the cream of the crop. I wrestled Kid Matera. The first time I wrestled him, he come to it, I was scared to death.
yeah.
I knew all his background.
Yeah.
Of course, I was scared to death all the time.
Right.
But I got to, being there in Georgia, being on top, and
Tommy
it
was
was
a
like
leader.
dancing. It was like dancing. I was a good father.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I had the best of the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they put me in a position to drop.
Of course.
Sure did.
But I had a
And-
good attitude too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And,
everything.
I mean, and that's it, because that heel can make you or break you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
You mean you didn't argue when they came and said, okay, what's your work with so you go, oh, wait,
Business.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't gonna do that no damn well, you're right, but it was still business, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when they told me to put, Kim Terry put me on, I said, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, I hope he's happy, but I'm not sure if he's happy, but I hope he wants to do this, yeah, you know. So,
They never did that.
but it was business, you know, it was just business.
Yeah, it is.
And that's the thing, it wasn't egos, it was business.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's, again, like for me, the angle with you and Buzz was one of those first ones, along with Piper and Greg Valentine.
Yeah.
And I'm reading in the magazine, and I remember reading an awful lot about Harley, and always wondered, like, if Hardy would wrestle Bruno, because Bruno was the champion, the god up in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And, for me, as the young snot-nosed kid, the wrestling magazines to me were, like, I'd be inside the magazine.
Yeah.
I'm reading it, but I'm not sitting on my porch reading. I'm in the arena watching this match, and just got so sucked in by it because it was I remember just sitting and watching, looking at this magazine with my friends, and I started this ring, and then we meet Dominic. Still never thought I'm going to be a wrestler. It just seemed to me like impossible. Like people like me don't become a wrestler, right? Like how do you do that? It's like a completely different world to me.
Yeah.
But to
Most people it is,
yeah.
I think.
But to have, for the three of us to have all had that chance, and to run the road. I mean, there's a lot of harder ways to make a living.
Yeah.
You watch people sweating out there.
Before I did that, I did chain link fencing when I was 15 and 16. Damn.
That's work.
In Florida.
Yeah.
Woo, that's hard.
Alligators and
Yeah.
It was work doing what we did too, 6 days a week, 9 times in a week.
Yeah.
But we just loved what we did.
We sure did.
We loved what we did. You can't, I mean, I don't wanna be out digging ditches, but we worked just as hard.
Yeah, we sure did.
Yeah. I think it was Mark Twain that said, the eminent writer, if you love your work, if you love your job, you have to go to work a day in your life.
That's
Smart
it.
20.
And that's
That
it.
is smart, man.
Yeah.
And I still love it today, man.
I do too.
I still love it today. I still love it. Hey, and it all started in smaller towns. I mean, it's all small town full with big buildings.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, sure was.
And I started in a bunch of little buildings.
Yeah.
And then we did the Omni-Man and
Amazing chemistry.
Coliseum.
Yeah.
So it was, it's a life experience.
It is, for sure. Oh, yeah.
And the bottom line, like you was talking about the fans wanting to get into it and all of that. Thank God for the wrestling fans. I'm glad they ain't all in this business.
Yes.
Because if it wasn't for y'all, they
We'd
wouldn't
be in trouble.
us. Yeah.
I can't think of a better place to end this up. I want to
Thank you very much, brother.
Tommy, good to see you, my
Good to
friend.
see
You
you,
too,
brother.
brother.
Yes, sir.
See you next time here on Appalachian Expose. Appreciate you being here again. Brett Sawyer and Tommy Wildfire Rich. See you next time.